A lot of these states, I watched this morning as Democrats are complaining, and they're complaining from states where they've done it, like in Illinois.
And that's a perfectly logical point there. You have Democrats, of course, aren't exactly innocent when it comes to gerrymandering. You're in Illinois, 2020, the 13th Congressional District was redrawn in a way that 538 called one of the worst gerrymandering in the country. What is your response to the president?
Well, it's not logical because we're not protesting just regular gerrymandering. Texas Republicans gerrymandered our state in 2021 at the beginning of the decade when they're supposed to redistrict. I voted against that rigged map, but I didn't break quorum. I'm breaking quorum with my colleagues now because Trump asked those same Republicans in Texas to redraw those Texas maps in the middle of the decade to give him 5 more seats so that he doesn't have to face accountability from the voters in the midterm elections because his policies have been so deeply unpopular. That's why this is different. And yes, gerrymandering is a problem in both political parties, in red states and blue states alike. It's wrong in all instances. It's why I've filed a bill in the Texas legislature to create a citizen-led, independent redistricting process so we can get the politics out of redistricting. But again, what's happening in Texas is at a whole nother level because it's at the request of the most powerful man in the country, and it's happening in the middle of the decade. It's kind of like 2 teams coming out of the locker room at halftime, and the team that's ahead says they want to change the rules in the second half to stay ahead. It's cheating, plain and simple, and Texans don't like cheaters.
Well, here's the deal. Since you're in Illinois, you're not able to vote on other issues. And one issue that's very close to a lot of residents in Texas is when it comes to flood relief and other things like that. By leaving the state, by breaking this quorum, do you think you could, and also in other ways, be hurting some of the residents of Texas because you can't vote on some of these other issues?
Well, the one who's hurting the people of Texas is Governor Abbott, because my colleagues and I showed up at the first day of this special legislative session 2 weeks ago, and we begged our Republican colleagues to prioritize flood victims and their families and disaster mitigation, and they refused to do so. In fact, they put those flood relief bills at the end of the agenda after this redistricting power grab, basically as leverage to try to get us to allow them to rig the upcoming 2026 elections. And so this is cynical politics at its worst, using flood victims, using a tragedy to do Donald Trump's bidding, to play politics. It's why people are fed up with politics as usual. And so we have called on Governor Abbott, we've called on our Republican colleagues to prioritize those flood victims. Let's get it done. Let's work across the aisle. Let's not play politics with these families.